Well, good morning. Top of the morning to you. Welcome to a Saturday edition of the Winning Ways Show, coming to you from our new studio here in the mountains of Idaho. So glad you're with me today. It's going to be a great day. This is the day the Lord hath made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. I hope you like this new bumper music for our new show format. And it's a song called I'll Be With You. Well, I might not be able to be with you in person, and you may be all by yourself, but I will be with you virtually today from the mountains of the snow covered mountains of Idaho. I woke up this morning, it was cold in the house, and Holly had to leave, and so I had to build a fire. And it was while I was building the fire that I felt the inspiration for this show. I wasn't going to do anything today online, but it's my prerogative to change my mind. It's my time, my life, my show, so I can do it whenever I want to. And I decided, today will be a good day to do my show. So we're coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And if you have any of those platforms and you haven't followed us, follow us on the YouTube channel, and you will get notified every time we go live. You'll get an email or a notification. Twitter, you just got to, if you have Twitter, look for G Samuel Verrett at G Samuel Verrett. You can follow me there. And for those of you that don't know how to spell that, I can just hear people right now going, I don't even know how to spell that. Well, there it is, G Samuel Verrett, just like it sounds. V is in Victor, Erret. When I was a kid in school, people used to call me Ferret. And I said, it's not ferret and it's not Verret, it's Verrett. Was preaching in Canada several years ago, came through Montreal and stopped, had a layover there at the airport and went to a gift shop. And the lady looks at my card and goes, "Oh, Mr. Verret." And I was like, wow, somebody finally got the pronunciation right, because technically the French pronunciation is Verret. And a lot of people call me, like I said, Verret. And in Louisiana, they call you a Verret. We have a lake named do you have a lake named after you? There's a lake in Louisiana named after our family, my ancestors, I guess, called Lake Verret. And there's one of the shows that I've watched on television where the guy is a alligator hunter. And guess what lake he does a lot of his hunting on, his trapping? Lake Verret. So my wife didn't believe there was a Lake Verret until one day we're watching the show and she saw it and goes, "Holy cow." I said, "Yeah, we at least have a lake named after us." So welcome to the show. So glad you're with me. The title of this is Saturday Morning Inspiration: Lessons from Building a Fire. Now, I don't know how many of you, your primary source of heat is a fireplace or a wood stove, but our primary source of heat here in our home is definitely a wood stove. And I remember when we first moved here, the middle of 2021, that I wondered, how is this going to work? I saw the wood stove, and the house we live in is not a small house. It's fairly good size. And yes, we do have heating and air conditioning. However, it's not too bad in the summer because the house is, solar powered for the most part. Electricity's from solar. But in the winter, when there's no sun, the electric bill can skyrocket on you, can be a little high. And so you heat with a wood stove, which means you have to get a bunch of logs and wood together so that you can do that. And we do have a fuel barn on our property that is full of firewood for the winter. And we've gone through a lot of firewood this year. We went through a good bit last year, but we've gone through more firewood this year than we did last year. It's been a colder winter. It's been a longer winter. It's still cold. It's in the 20s today. It had been in the 40s and the 50s, low 50s. And then all of a sudden it went boom, back down. I got up this morning, it was 21. So I had to build a fire. Holly was gone. She's generally the one that builds the fire. She's much more proficient at it than I am. I, am not as effective at building fires as she is. I can put fires out, but I'm not as great at building them. So today I had to build a fire. And so I had to get all the ingredients together to build the fire. Had to make sure I had some firewood, had to have some kindling, had to have something to get the fire started. And so I got busy. So I started out, I tore up some cardboard and put it in the wood stove and laid kindling on it, got it all laid out right, had some bigger pieces of. Hey. Hello. I'm doing a live stream. The lunch got pushed back till 1. All right, I'm doing a live stream. Oh, you are? Yes. Hello, audience. I'm live right now. Holly. Hello, audience. Hang on. I'll put you on speakerphone where you can say it because people won't believe me. How do you put it on speakerphone? I'll call you later. Say hello. She hung up. Holly had a party she was supposed to do at the new restaurant this morning at 11. It's been put off till 1. So she decided to call me right in the middle of my show. And I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, I was talking about getting all the things together to build a fire. So I put the pieces of cardboard in. I laid some kindling on top of it. I got the lighter and I started lighting it, got it lit. The cardboard, it started burning. And then I had to keep putting kindling on. I had to keep working at building this fire. You know, you don't just start with a big log, you start with little things. And I kept working at it, fanning the flame, making sure the fire didn't go out, making sure that it was still burning. I have to blow on it a little bit and keep that little flame going, adding kindling. And finally it got to the point where it started catching and taking off. And I added some bigger pieces of wood. And then finally, after, 25 minutes or so, 30 minutes, it seemed like, I was able to put some bigger logs on and the fire is still going. And of course, it's enclosed in a wood stove and there's a fan on it that blows out warm heat. So it's warming up in here. It's not in the 60s anymore. And, but the funny thing about a fire is just because you started a fire and it's burning and it's warming the atmosphere doesn't mean it's going to keep doing that all day long, unless, especially if you don't pay attention to it. So Holly has to constantly remind me. I got a little sign here on my desk reminding me to go stoke the fire, go add to the fire, go make sure the fire is still burning. Because if it goes out, then you got to start the whole process all over again. And so during the day, I'm adding more wood. I'm if I open it up and I look and it's not flame burning the right way, then I have to stoke the coals. I have to blow them, I have to fan the flame to get it going again, to keep it going. And while I'm building this fire, and like I said, I generally don't do a Saturday show, but it got me to thinking about our lives and our motivation in particular. What motivates us to do what we do? Well, motivation, I believe, starts with desire. You have to want something before you're going to have it. You'll never pursue something you don't want. The proof of desire is pursuit. If you really want to accomplish something, you really want something, you really want to become a certain way, you have to desire it. And the proof of that desire is that you pursue it. So motivation is so important. What motivates you? What stirs you to action? What floats your boat, so to speak? What is it that excites you? What are you passionate about? What is it that keeps you motivated? That gets you motivated and keeps you motivated? Sometimes you lose your motivation, and so you have to get motivated again. Just like building this fire, you got to start fanning those flames. And I believe there's all kinds of things that kill your motivation. I think let me share 9 toxic habits with you that kill your motivation, that keep you from moving forward and doing what God created you to do and accomplishing what God had created you to accomplish. Number 1 is thinking you have to be perfect. A lot of people don't try because they can't do it perfectly. They won't even start a job if they can't do it perfectly. But imperfect action is better than no action. There's a lot of projects that I start that I don't know how to do them really, but I get started. And as I continue the project, I get better and better and better at doing what I'm doing. A lot of times people allow this toxic habit of thinking they have to be perfect or do everything perfect. It keeps them from accomplishing anything. So that's number 1. Number 2, constantly comparing yourself to other people. I'm not you. You're not me. I can't do what you do. You can't do what I do. We may do similar things, but one of us is probably going to be stronger in some areas of that than the other. Comparison is a thief. It keeps you from excelling in any area of life. It keeps you from accomplishing anything. I wish I was as spiritual as they are. I wish I could preach as good as they preach. I wish I could sing as good as she can sing. Wish I could write as good as that person. Comparing. Now, not only do we compare what people are doing, we compare if I only had their house, if I had their job, if I made the same money they made, I wish I could dress like they dress. I wish I could have what they have. Comparing. And people really, you get to the point, if you compare yourself to other people, and you compare their successes to what you consider a lack of success. I believe all of us are successful. If we're accomplishing anything, we're successful. We may not have all the money, all the resources, all the accolades that other people have, but if we're accomplishing things and doing what God created us to do, we're successful. Doesn't matter what other people think. But when you compare yourself to others, you lose your motivation. You don't even feel like doing it. Well, they're doing so well. If I had everything I wish I had the equipment they have. And I remember when I first started doing my live streams that was kind of that way. I compared my results to what the others had. Well, I'm not as successful as them because I only have a few people watching my show every day or at a time. And I look at theirs and they've got 100 people watching and I've got 10. And the Lord really had to work me over. And he said, I don't care if I've given you something to speak, it doesn't matter if there's just one person watching it in Africa or in Pakistan or in Ireland or England. It doesn't matter. If there's only one person that gets something out of what you have to say, then you were successful because you shared, you taught what I gave you to share and teach. And that helped me because I was comparing my show to other shows. I was comparing my audience to other audiences. Well, I'm not for everybody, and neither is it the other people. They're not for everybody. There are people I can reach that they'll never reach. There are people that they can reach that I'll never reach. So constantly comparing yourself to others. I'm not as smart. I'm not as wise. I'm not as skilled. I'm not as talented. That kind of stuff kills your motivation. Well, it just seems like everything they touch turns to gold. It just seems like whatever they do, they make it look so easy. They're not stressing out about this. I'm stressing out about this. No, I'm not. Constantly comparing yourself to others. Number 3, not believing in your ideas or talents. You've got to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in you, who's going to? Well, isn't that selfish? Isn't that kind of being self-centered? God believes in you. Why don't you believe in you? Because we've let a religion and other people tell us, well, you're just a little bit cocky, aren't you? You think you're all that in a bag of chips. No, I don't think I'm all that in a bag of chips. But I'm just confident that I can do what God's called me to do, what God's created me to do. I believe in my ideas and my talents. I know what my skills are. And I'm not afraid to use them. My ideas are as good as your ideas. I'm acting on my ideas. What are you doing with yours? Not believing in your talent, not believing in yourself, not believing in your value, that what you have to offer, not believing in it. You know, I've worked in sales a few times in my life, and there were times I quit simply because I didn't believe in the product. And if I couldn't believe in the product, I wasn't going to lie to somebody and say, hey, this will change your life. And it might for the negative, but you need this. No, maybe not. And because I didn't believe in it, I wasn't successful in that particular job. You have to believe in your ideas and your talents. Number 4, 9 toxic habits that kill your motivation, that stop you. Number 4, multitasking, doing too much at one time. You know, you've heard the saying, well, he can't chew gum and walk, you know. None of us are really good at multitasking. I mean, we may say we are. We have all these things going. There are times I sit down here to do something, to work here at my desk, and putting a show together, writing something, editing something for a book. And the next thing I know, I'm doing 3 things at one time, and then none of it gets done. What kills your motivation? You lose you start doing too many things, you get your mind scattered in so many directions, you can't focus on one thing, so you lose your motivation for the reason you sat down in the first place. You lose your focus. And as Dr. Mike Murdoch says, he says the only reason for failure is broken focus. The reason we fail to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish is our focus gets broken. One of the biggest enemies that we have to combat is distractions. You know, I think in the motivational circles, self-improvement circles, it's known as the shiny object syndrome. You're working on this. You've got this program that you know that you're using to do what you're doing, and then you see something on the internet and it sounds better than what you got. So now you're distracted by that. If I only had that program instead of this program, I could get my job done. I got stuck in that for a while, a few years ago. There's always something better, always a better program, a better microphone, a better way, a better lighting system. Bright, shiny object syndrome. It's known also as squirrels. It's ADD. You're doing this, and then all of a sudden you're over here doing this, and it's squirrel, 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 squirrel. Multitasking. You can't do it. There's no such thing as successful multitasking. You may get a little bit done in each area, but why don't you start a project and finish it? Why don't you stay with it? Don't let yourself get into this trap of multitasking. Number 5, not having clear goals. A lot of people lose their motivation because they haven't written their goals out. Do you have your goals written down? You know, if you write your goals out and then you write down the action steps, now you've got a plan. All you got to do is follow the plan to reach your goal, which leads you to your success. Not having a clear goal. Jesus had a clear goal. The Bible says he set his face as a flint towards Jerusalem. He knew why he was here, to go to Jerusalem, to be crucified, to pay the price of redemption. And he wouldn't let anything deter him from that. The Bible talks about in the Old Testament, the instructions God gave some of the prophets and some of the leaders was don't look to the left, to the right, or to the right, but keep your eyes focused straight ahead. Stay on target. Goals keep you on target. Number 6, another bad toxic habit that will keep you from being motivated or just kill your motivation, rather, is not encouraging yourself. Well, nobody's encouraging me. Encourage yourself. What are you, 2? I know sometimes I say things that sound kind of offensive. I'm just trying to be funny. But seriously, David encouraged himself in the Lord. There are times you got to be your cheerleader. You got to cheer yourself on. There are times that people don't understand what you're doing. They don't care what you're doing, and they won't help you to do what you're doing. So you got to help yourself. You got to encourage yourself. It's known as being self-motivated. Number 7, 9 things that kill your motivation: not getting enough rest. It's hard to be motivated when you're tired. It's easy to become unmotivated or demotivated when you're tired. Get some rest. You can't work 24/7. There are times you have to rest. God made you to rest. Number 8, not recognizing opportunities or new ideas. That will cause you to lose your motivation. Well, I don't know what to do. There's nothing good happening. You know, I think everything that's ever been done in this area has already been done. No, it hasn't. You got to recognize opportunities, new opportunities and ideas. And last but not least, the number 9 toxic habit that kills your motivation is being easily distracted. I talked about that earlier. Distractions is an enemy. And I'm going to do a series. I'm not a series of some videos. I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 on the enemies that we have to overcome to possess our promised land. Just like the children of Israel had a promised land that was full of enemies they had to defeat so they could possess it. So we have our promised land, whatever the promises of God are for us, whatever the purpose that God has given us is, whatever our desires are, there are enemies that will keep you from reaching that and having everything that's in your promised land. And we're going to talk about them. And one of the biggest is distractions. Being distracted, just losing your focus, breaking your focus. So there are things that can kill your motivation. Motivation I think the simplest definition for me of what motivation is, it's motive plus action. It's why I'm doing what I'm doing, and then the actions I need to take to see it become a reality. Motivation is that get up and go you spirit. I talked to somebody one time and I said, how you doing? He said, man, my get up and go's done got up and went. I'm like, that's crazy. But it's what stirs you, what burns on the inside of you, what drives you forward. So just like building the fire, I had to have some kindling. I had to have a flame. I had to have bigger pieces of wood. I had to have all the things necessary to get the fire going. So it is with your motivation. You've got to get the right things you need, and you got to start the fire, and then you got to keep the fire going. Because a fire naturally will go out if left unattended. So you got to fan the flame. This is funny, interesting. Speaking of that, now a big fire, you got to really pay attention to it because there can be there can be coals under the surface that you don't even see, and you think the fire's out, and the next thing you know, it's flamed up again. We have big wood piles here that we burn piles, and certain times of year we're allowed to burn them without a permit. Good times of the year. This is one of those times. I went up. Holly was cutting down some trees on our property that needed to be cleared out, and so she had these big burn piles. And I went up there, and when I got up there, she had sent me up to check on it. I got up there, it looked like the fire was out. And so I just started taking other brush and throwing it on top and kind of move some of the ground, the coals or the ashes around. And sure enough, there were coals on it. Next thing you know, I got a roaring fire. We had a burn pile last year down on another piece of the property. It was a huge burn pile. And we had been off the mountain and came back, and it was dormant, didn't look like it was burning. So we came up to the house, and about 15 minutes later, I looked out, and we had a roaring fire going. I mean, a roaring fire. So we thought that our neighbor had gone and started the fire back up and ran down there. I mean, sparks flying like 75 feet in the air. So we went down there to contain it if we needed to contain it, to see why it had flared up. Well, the wind had picked up. And underneath the ashes were these hot coals. It was funny. We dug down, like after we thought the fire was out, a couple or 3 weeks later, we dug down and there's hot coals burning underground. So, sometimes it doesn't look like you don't feel motivated, but the fires of motivation are deep inside of you. You just got to fan the flame. You got to stir up. Remember what Paul told Timothy, stir up the gift of God that is in you. Sometimes you feel like I'm not living my purpose. I'm not doing what God created me to do. I don't think it's ever going to work. I'm not going to succeed at this. It's going to be a failure. Sometimes you got to do what Paul told Timothy, stir up the gift of God that is in you. Stir it up. Stir it up. Sometimes you got to shake yourself. You got to stir it up. Some of the things I do to keep the flame burning is, number one, I have my goals in front of me, because goals will give you motivation. Number two, I'm talking about it all the time. Number three, I'm reading things that motivate me. Number four, I'm listening to sermons or speeches that fire me up, that motivate me, that stir up, that keep the embers burning. I don't want to burn out. I would rather be fired up than to burn out. And I don't think you have to burn out. I think you can be fired up, but you're going to fire yourself up. God's not going to do it. He'll assist you, but he's not going to do it. I can't fire you up. I can share information with you that may encourage you, spark something on the inside of you, but I'm not with you 24/7. So I can't keep you fired up. You keep yourself fired up. You fan the flame, you get it burning, and then keep it burning. I keep it burning by listening to things that keep me motivated. I keep it burning by talking to God about it. I keep it burning by talking to others about it. I keep it burning by acting on what I'm believing and doing. That's how you stay motivated. Somebody told Zig Ziglar one time, motivation doesn't last. He said, well, I know motivation doesn't last, but neither does a bath. And that's why we recommend you take one every day. One bath is not sufficient to stay clean. You got to take it every day. One day of motivation doesn't have the ability to keep you motivated the rest of your life. You got to stay, as Les Brown says, you got to stay hungry. You got to fire yourself up. You got to jerk yourself up by the bootstraps. Nobody can do it for you. God won't do it for you. He said you can do it. Stir up the gift that is in you. Don't stop. Don't quit. Don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. Give it all you've got and stay with it. Hallelujah. Stay with it. Listen to shows like my show. Watch it. You'll get motivated. Watch. I'm not here to discourage you. I'm not here to criticize you. I'm not here to damn you. I'm not here to tear you down. I am here to build you up. To build you up. It's called edification, to edify you as a teacher, as a called by God man. I want to edify you. I'm not going to condemn you. I'm not going to put you down. I'm here to encourage you, to build your faith, to stir your faith. To implore you to be everything God created you to be. Don't listen to people that demotivate you. Don't be thinking those crazy thoughts of what people in your past have said about you. Don't let it live rent free in your head. As Holly says, she says it better than me. But don't allow those thoughts. Break them off. Cast them down. The Bible says we're to take our thoughts captive, casting down every imagination and high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, that exalts itself against what God says about you. You know, one of the things is God, I have to do a video on this someday. What God thinks about you is way different than what religion says God thinks about you. What God thinks about you is way different than what religion thinks God thinks about you. It's in his word. It says you're loved. It says you're the apple of his eye. It says you're more than a conqueror. It says you're his righteousness in the earth. You're a king and a priest unto him. So when other people start putting you down, don't let their thoughts, don't let what their words rather live rent free in your. I forgot this microphone. If you touch it in the wrong place, it turns it off, but I turned it back on. So you got to just keep fanning the flames. Keep fanning the flames. If you want to stay on fire for God, you just got to stay in the word. You got to be around people that are fired up. You got to spend time in prayer, spend time in fasting. That's, I'm coming to the end of a 21-day fast, and it's been tough the last week because of some of my physical problems, and I've had to eat sooner every day than what I'm fasting from sun up to sundown, 6 to 6, and there are times I just wiped out. I mean, I had to have something to eat because of the medications I'm taking, but I'm nearing the end of it. Why did I do it? To stir myself up, to fan the flame. To fan the flame. Get around other on fire people. Their enthusiasm will pick you up. There are some people I just love to talk to. There are some people I don't like to talk to because they depress you. You probably don't know anybody like that. I know a few. It's just like every time they open their mouth, it's like, oh, God. Why did I call them? An acquaintance I called the other day, and I was on the phone. I hadn't been on the phone 45 seconds, and I'm like, why did I make this phone call? I got to do something to encourage this guy because, man, every time I talk to him, woe is me. Oh, and after a while, you can't have a steady diet of that and stay motivated. So sometimes I don't even, sometimes I just have to some numbers I've had to block from my phone. So if you've been calling me and you're not getting a response, it's probably because I don't have your number in my phone, and it's not because you're blocked. But sometimes I want to just block numbers, block emails, block. Uh, why? Because they'll bring you down, and you got to now you got to go fire yourself up again. Just keep. You got to dig into the coals and get the fire going. Fan the flame. Fan it so that the flame doesn't go out. Hallelujah. So just from building a fire this morning, that's what I got. Here's how to be motivated. Motivate yourself. Stir up the gift of God that is in you. Remember why you started in the first place doing what you're doing. Look to the future. Look to the reward of your efforts. You know, if you went to work this week and your boss said, we're not going to pay you anymore, would you keep doing the job you're doing? The answer is probably no. What keeps you going? The goal that at the end of a week or at 2 weeks, there's going to be a paycheck. That goal keeps you going. Otherwise, you wouldn't do what you're doing. So make sure you have the right goals. You need to set some bigger goals. I want a bigger paycheck. Write the goals out. Keep them in front of you. Stir yourself. Shake yourself. Take the promises of God and say, God, this is what you said in your word belongs to me, and I'm standing on that. I'm believing for that. You promised healing to me, and I'm believing for it. You promised that my financial needs would be taken care of, and I'm believing for that. You promised, God, for strong relationships. I'm believing for that. You promised for prosperity to come into my life. I'm believing for that. I'm not believing just to get by, just to get my needs met, but I'm believing that you will bless me and bless my efforts so that I have an abundance, more than enough. So not only are my needs met, but I can be a blessing to other people as well. So you just got to keep reminding yourself of why you do what you do. I do. That's how I keep the flame going. I just have to, there are times I don't feel like doing what I do. I've always been that way, and everybody's that way at one time or another until you start thinking about this is why I do what I do. And I believe in me if nobody else believes in me. I believe in me because God believes in me. God believes in you. Believe in yourself. Believe in your skills, your ability, your talent, your ideas, your dreams, your visions, your goals. Believe in it. And then start acting like you believe in it. Start doing what you know you need to do to see the goal become a reality. Hebrews 12, verse 1 says that Jesus kept the goals of why he came to this earth in front of him. Who, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him that endures such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest ye be weary and faint in your mind. Jesus kept his eyes on the reward, not what it was going to take to get the reward. Huh. He saw what was the reward of the price of redemption that had to be paid. He saw that, and that kept him going. See the reward of meeting your goal, of reaching your goal, and what it's going to produce and enable you to do for others and for yourself and your family. Hallelujah. Keep keeping on. Stay on target. Stay on track. So I learned those things. I was reminded of those things actually from building a fire. Maybe you need to go build a fire. And listen to the voice of the Spirit speak to you. This is how you get it done. I love you guys. God bless. Thanks for watching. Share this video with others, and you can watch it on replay and like it, comment on it. And I think if you'll take what I shared with you today and apply it to your life, it's going to be a blessing. And you're going to accomplish greater things than what you've accomplished to this time. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.